Hello, this is Tom Knox, and I want to welcome you to this webinar today, brought to you by CareFamily regarding dementia and Alzheimer's. And today we want to bring you tips and resources on how you can deal with a loved one who may be suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. Obviously, this is a big need. We find that about 50% of the families we help, the caregivers and the adult child, are dealing with a senior who's suffering from some sort of dementia or Alzheimer. I remember dealing it with my own grandmother, who when I was a young child, I watched her as she began to suffer the symptoms of Alzheimer's, and then they seemed to call it hardening of the arteries. And we've learned a lot more since then about the disease. And today I have with us Patricia Lacey, who's the Chief Operating Officer and Program Director for the Alzheimers Association here in southeastern Virginia. And we're going to walk you through a presentation that's going to talk a little bit about the symptoms and signs to look for with Alzheimer's, the stages of Alzheimer's, how to handle the situation when you get to a point when you realize a diagnosis has been made, and give you some tips and answer some questions. So we hope that over the next few minutes this will help you. And obviously, as you move off of this presentation, please know that we're going to talk about what the Alzheimer's Association offers families. And with CareFamily, remember that we're offering you the opportunity to find caregivers right in your local area who are experienced in Alzheimer's care, and allow you to choose and match directly with that right caregiver, hire them, and keep someone at home long term, which I know is the goal of many, at a very affordable price, whether it's hourly care or live-in care. So we're happy to bring this to you, and I'm going to turn it over to Patty Lacey, and we're going to go ahead and move on to a little bit about Alzheimer's.
Thank you, Tom. I know that for many families, hearing the word Alzheimer's or dementia is a very daunting and stressful time in their lives. Many people are somewhat familiar with the idea of what Alzheimer's and dementia is, but it's still very frightening, and many don't know what to do, and even with the doctor's diagnosis, they stay in denial for a while. But eventually, they get to the point where they realize that they're going to need some help with this. And reaching out for that help is one of the first things that is going to give you some security in dealing with this. And you're not alone. There are over 5 million people in this country dealing with this disease now, and there are 15 million caregivers across the country who are giving unpaid care to their loved ones in their homes. They provide over 17 billion hours of unpaid care a year that's valued at over $216 billion. And the caregivers that provide that care suffer significant stress and health-related disorders related to those caregiving duties. And, when we talk about, the changes related to Alzheimer's disease or dementia, related to just changes related to aging, sometimes people ask me, what's the difference? And really, you can take any of those, signs of dementia you talked about, and everybody gets those at some time in their life, whether they're in that aging bracket like Tom and I are, or whether they're young. And, the difference is they're making you make significant changes in your life according to that what sign or not. Like everybody has, making bad decisions occasionally. I know I have. And you, Tom?
Yes, I have.
Okay. But with Alzheimer's disease or dementia, your decision-making process becomes impaired, and it gets significantly worse, and it doesn't get better, and it continues that way. Or, forgetting a day every now and then, and the day it is, and remembering it later. But people with Alzheimer's lose track of that date or the season, and it continually becomes an issue. It's that kind of thing. It becomes progressive and continually impacts.
I heard one person give the example that we all lose our keys.
Yeah.
But if you can not remember even putting them there, that's a problem. But a lot of us lose our keys and we're like, oh yeah, I put it here because of this. You probably don't have a problem. The other thing is, as we get older, a lot of us, it takes us longer sometimes to remember something. We may have to process a bit. And that's a natural part of aging. It's when you just have these blocks and you just can't even recall the information at all, or even when someone tells you, it's a little more of an issue.
Absolutely. Even just stress in your everyday life can make these things happen.
Exactly.
But that's not dementia. It's something more significant. So what we want to talk about a little bit is to address the issues and needs in this disease as we go through the stages. Now, many of you may have heard of 7 or 12 stage models of this disease, and some of the more scientific medical research institutions use those stages. But for families and for caregivers, it's really not practical to say, oh, I'm in stage 1 or stage 8 or stage 9, because even those medical institutions sometimes have a really hard time pinpointing those stages. So we're going to break it down into 3 simple stages: early, middle, and late. And we'll talk about the issues and needs and some of the things that we at the Alzheimer's Association and CareFamily can provide for you in those stages. So as we talk about those stages, early, middle, and late, we'll talk a little bit about the characteristics of those stages, and we'll see what some of the issues you're going to face during those are. So let's talk about issues in middle stage. The very first one is adjusting.
Early stage, right?
Is early stage.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about adjusting to the diagnosis. And I'm sure, Tom, in your family, that was a big one.
Yeah. It was just getting the diagnosis first.
Yeah, getting that.
You know, and really being on the same page with the doctor, and then we'll all have to adjust to it and figure out what our plan is.
Any denial there and not a river?
There was a lot of denial, absolutely, especially from her husband.
Yeah.
It's very tough to miss it.
It's really hard. And you know, sometimes, you know, because we get the diagnosis even earlier now, there's a lot of denial, and often from the individual also.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's what's wrong with me, because look, I can still do all these things. And oftentimes that's true in the early stages. The individual with this diagnosis can even still be working.
Yeah.
So that's important. Another issue is forming the adequate care team. And that care team encompasses a huge group, okay? It's not just your medical team. It also includes your family and support team, your friends. You need a team of friends around you. You need your spiritual support team, your faith-based team, so to speak. And you're going to need a care team. At this stage, you're probably not going to need support from you know, in-home care or anything like that, but you need to start looking at, well, what does my community offer? Because in many rural areas, there are not a lot of options really before this, were there, Tom?
Absolutely not, and I think that's where even the time with the family, where you're sitting down and saying, you know, because each of the adult children may have a thing that they're good at. One may say, you know, I'm going to be really good at interfacing with the medical community. I'm going to be really good at coming by and making meals or checking in on mom or being there when she's getting in the bathtub or driving her because she can't drive anymore. Another may be really good on the financial end and say, look, I can't be around, but I can provide a little bit of resources for care. So that's part of that real honest discussion, because like you said earlier, unfortunately it's not one of those things that reverses. It may settle out a little bit if the right medication is used, but ultimately it's going to get worse. So you got to be prepared now to do it.
Absolutely. And then there's that big elephant in the room. Who do we tell? When and how and who do we disclose the diagnosis to? And that is a very sticky issue. If the person is still working, do we tell them? Issues with insurance and other things. Do we disclose this if we don't already have long-term care insurance, or do we get it? I mean, there are all kinds of ethical and other issues. The laws are very gray in some areas about this. So you need to think about those. And if you haven't already planned for this, there's a tremendous amount of planning in the legal, financial, care, transportation. How long can I drive? So you really need to start thinking about these things.
Just to go back to that, so, you know, there's good elder care attorneys who, you know, I'm sure the Alzheimer's Association can provide a referral, or if you email us at CareFamily in our Ask an Expert section, we can help identify a local elder care attorney. But there's a lot of things you want to plan for. There could be Medicaid planning, or if they're a veteran, there are certain benefits there. Any advice on the disclosure to families? I know with us, if the person was out in social settings, if they had very good friends, oftentimes we told that person so they wouldn't challenge them constantly on, oh, come on, you remember that, or whatever, it was a little more understanding. So with close friends and family, we decided it was a good time to tell them once the diagnosis was made, and also to encourage them because we wanted them to be a little bit part of the team, stay friends, but also, maybe take them out once a week and make sure they're still doing lunch or still doing the things they need to do.
Yeah, first thing, when my grandmother was diagnosed, I think most people had an idea something was going on.
Yeah.
But she was fairly on in years when she was diagnosed, so it was pretty much there. Needs, the support for the person is, and the caregivers and the families to help people accept that diagnosis, and that's one of the things we work with at the Alzheimer's Association, with support groups for the individual in our early stage support groups are very specialized, where a primary caregiver and the individual can attend together. Connections with families that are also going through this. Connecting that early stage person with other early stage people and with other caregivers.
Can I go back to the support groups? Because, first of all, the Alzheimer's Association offers these nationally.
Yes.
And they are really powerful. The people who get involved with them and are around other people who have both been through it or are going through it now, like anything else, it really helps. And important what you just said, some of the early stage ones, you can actually bring your loved one.
Yes.
And that's important, too, because it helps everybody ease into the lifestyle a little bit without as much fear.
Absolutely.
Because they're seeing other people go through it and resources are available right there. Okay.
And we're also developing across the country what's called early stage engagement programs, where we actually do activities, we have outings, and they include the individual who's diagnosed and the care partner, so that you can really build a network among people who are going through the same thing that you are, really building that care team around you. It's a network. And now is the time to start building trust in that entire care team. That's why I feel like, even though you're not going to need the professional caregiving end of that now, start meeting people.
Absolutely.
Start, going to visit people. You may not think that you're going to need, say, an in-home care team now, but meet people and start developing some trust.
Okay.
Your informational needs. You're going to need tons of information, and you would be amazed at what we have at the Alzheimer's Association on our website, in our offices, things that we can also mail out to you, a 24-hour helpline. We'll talk more about what we have later, but you're going to need information on a variety of subjects about the diagnosis, about medical needs, how to form the care team, about legal and financial considerations. We can't do the legal work for you, but we can get you up to speed with many of our classes on what kinds of medical and legal information you need to know so that you have some informed information when you do go to your attorney about work-related issues and safety, driving, transportation, and even genetic concerns going through with this, because now that you have a diagnosis, if it is the first in your family, what you need to know going through this with the rest of your family, because there are bound to be questions now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure there were in your family too, Tom.
Yeah. At an early stage, people are often still living alone, right? And there are things where you're just starting to notice big differences with mom or dad. They're not huge issues of wandering or trying to, but they may leave a burner on. They may be repeating themselves. They may just forget a phone number that would be very common. But they're still in that zone of being somewhat independent. So, you want to get a diagnosis from your doctor and try to ask what stage they're in. But also those are the things you want to kind of recognize, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, well, let's talk about going into middle stage now. In middle stage Alzheimer's, we call, and forgive me for the term, but I've heard it called caregiver hell. Okay, and it's often the longest stage of Alzheimer's disease, and that's where we see more of the behavioral issues develop. It's where toward the end of the middle stages where we see a lot of the physical infirmities start setting in, and this is where the need for hands-on assistance with personal care issues come in. Communication is usually the first thing that starts causing issues here. Communication becomes much more pronounced. And you see a relationship change.
Yeah.
Okay? If it's a couple, a husband and wife, you see the relationship change in this point, and that's usually where the big emotional problems come in. Or if it is a child and parent relationship, when that dyad shifts where now the child is caring for the parent and the parent is more like a child, that causes a huge emotional change for both. Trust me, your parent never thought you would be giving them a bath in the morning either. Okay? Safety comes right to the front. There are so many pitfalls for someone with dementia who just thinks they're living their life like they used to, but there are dangers in anything. A bathroom has, dozens of pitfalls, a kitchen, a medicine cabinet, just a cleaning cabinet.
Driving.
So, driving.
Even walking out and getting a little bit lost. I'm seeing in that stage people can...
It's just tremendous. There are so many issues that come to the front. So you see the stage is set for so many changes during this time that, the caregiver and the individual, the individual gets overwhelmed and the caregiver is just running, trying to keep up with them. So you can see that there's going to be a tremendous amount of needs to be met for both here.
And I just want to say, too, the behavioral changes you mentioned here, I've seen with a lot of families we've helped. It's amazing to watch someone who may have been sweet and very nurturing their entire life can become very difficult, almost ornery and belligerent. And then it could often be the opposite, where somebody who oftentimes had a hard time interfacing with family members can become much different. And I think that people have to recognize those personality changes are part of the disease, but they're real. And just to kind of expect them and instead of fighting them, it's something you may have to just adapt to and cope with.
And, one of the things we have to remember when we're dealing with Alzheimer's disease, caregiver education can go a long way in this.
Yeah.
Part of it is understanding actually what's going on in the brain.
Yeah.
And it's actual brain damage. The person who has this disease can't try harder.
Yeah.
Okay. No matter what you think, they can't try harder. They're not doing this to spite you.
Good point.
And, so it's nothing that they could do differently. Mm-hmm. They're not capable of doing that at this point. The other thing is 90% of behavior is an expression of an unattended need of theirs, and they don't know how to tell you what they need. And so we have to find a way to get around that, figure it out, and do the best we can to meet those needs. So what do they need? One of the most important things they need is in-home safety and comfort. And sometimes it's a mere matter of they are uncomfortable, they're too hot, they're too cold, something hurts, something is painful. They don't know how to tell you that anymore. And they may tell you that the wrong thing hurts, but they really can't express themselves clearly or in the way that they used to. They may be thirsty, or they may need to go to the restroom, but they can't tell you how they need that help. Maintaining their sense of self, where they've been able to express themselves or to enjoy themselves, that sense of being able to initiate things on their own starts to go away, where we may be able to say, okay, today I'm going to go work in the garden because it makes me feel good to wake up in a few weeks and see the seeds sprouting. Or I'm going to straighten up all the books and things in the other room because I like to see them nice and clean, and I like to see the grandchildren's trophies and things lined up when they come over because it makes them happy and it makes me happy. Well, they can't get themselves self-started in something meaningful to them. They need help getting started, and so they're losing the meaning in their life. And so they need help getting started doing something that means something. And their ability to do something that means something has lessened, so we may have to find ways so that they can help and therefore accomplish something that is useful. So getting in there to help them start, help them get their needs met, whether it's they're in pain or they need to go to the restroom or they're itching, whatever it is that they need, they're hungry, or we're giving them something they don't like and they would like something different. We have to do those things. And when I say something they liked, or maybe they used to like it, but now their brain is telling them they don't like it anymore. So it gets very complex. So, and
I like what you said about there's things that people have done all their life. It could be everything from gardening to baking certain things to, doing things with photos or doing a crossword puzzle or reading the Bible, let's say. If the family member can have the right perspective and not go, come on, Mom, you used to do this all the time, they can walk along, or the right caregiver that has certain tasks that say, look, just walk them out to the garden, and let them, you start watering and say, hey, why don't you do the rest of this row? Or let's get that recipe out and let's go get all the ingredients. And then, hey, would you mix the eggs here or whatever it may be, but to kind of start them, but let them do the same pattern. You notice a big difference in their overall kind of peace of mind and the dynamic in the home.
My grandmother loved to make an Irish stew, and she got to the point where she couldn't do it, but, everybody's coming over, she wanted, so I would start making it and everything. She couldn't read the recipe anymore. There really wasn't a recipe, but I would go over and let her taste and ask her what she needed, and, she would come up with something crazy like cocoa. And so I would go over to the cabinet, and I would get out the cocoa, and I would take out a little pinch and put it in it. A little pinch and put anything in a big pot of stew.
But instead of saying, Mom, cocoa doesn't go on.
So I'd stir it, I'd go and taste it, and she'd say, perfect.
Oh, I love it.
And she was happy, and, it made her feel good. She contributed, so that was good.
Yep.
And there's the old classic of, everybody's coming over, I don't have time to do anything. Dump the washcloths or the little hand towels into a basket and push the wheelchair up to the table and say, can you please fold these? I can't get everything done. Everybody's coming over. And even if she doesn't fold them or anything, praise them, let them fold them, and thank them for the help. Give them something to do.
Excellent.
Help them connect with others. Ask people from church to come over and read them their favorite Bible verses or sing their favorite song. It's tough when Gaelic was their first language, and the only Bible things they remember were in that language. You may have to get recordings of, children's Bible songs in that language, but it will make them very happy to have those things done.
And things from that, their era, like, whether it's music or movies or whatever, really, that's almost their comfort zone a lot of times. So don't be afraid, especially now, with the internet being able to order just about anything or Netflix. I mean, there's ways of doing this, and what a difference it makes. And studies are showing people, not that they necessarily improve, but just how they are day to day, and even stabilizing a bit with the right type of music and support and everything else is really key.
Yeah. I think it's a little less stabilization, but the more of moving the anxiety and the behaviors and the craziness of life so that they can be relaxed and calm where they are.
Absolutely.
And in the middle stages for the caregiver, the care partner really becomes the caregiver here. And they really need to balance if they work, the work with home relationships and care provision. And even if you're not working, you still need to maintain a connection with the rest of your family, with your friends, some balance. You still need to keep your connection with your faith-based organization with your outside activities, because if you immerse yourself 100% in caregiving, I've seen it happen all too often, you will die before your loved one.
Absolutely. And it's like the analogy they use when you sit in an airplane and they say, put on your oxygen mask before you even put it on your child.
Yes.
Because if you're not able to survive, if you're not able to think straight, it's all going to break down. So, it's even like getting your own respite. Or sometimes when we're dealing with families, it's almost getting that 1 or 2 days a week of a caregiver, not so much for the senior, but because that loved one needs to still go volunteer at the hospital or go sit in a Starbucks or, as an adult child, you've got to make sure that it's concentrated time for your husband or your wife or your kids. and create these little areas of, I don't want to say freedom, but where you're outside of the caregiving and outside of the disease a little bit, because you'll be able to sustain yourself longer.
You know, and I think one of the biggest misnomers is, well, I am a stay-at-home person anyway, so I can be there 24/7.
Well said.
Well, you can't. You have doctor's appointments. You've got to grocery shop. You've got to do all these things. And there will come a point in time where your loved one will not be comfortable going out anymore.
Yep.
And there comes a point in time in this disease where it's not just in the home. You almost have to have line of sight.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I ask you to look into the option of having some in-home care to provide respite for you.
Exactly.
You really have to look at that option. And in-home care is not going to be the perfect answer for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will have to be placed in assisted living and eventually in nursing homes.
Yep.
And so you really need to look and evaluate the option, but I want you to look at each option for how it fits with you.
Right.
Okay? But you are going to need respite. You're going to need a break. You're going to need someone to provide care for this person. And many of you are going to need it much sooner than others because many of you are going to have your own health needs.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you will probably need it from day one when you hit middle stage.
And I would suggest, too, to get the help, predetermine when it is and set it in stone, because I've seen people go, I have people I can just call and they can come over. Well, that never really works.
No.
And it's like, you want to know I have Tuesdays free or I have Friday afternoons free, because it gives you that island you can kind of work towards, plus you can plan around it.
Absolutely.
But try to stabilize it and make sure, and that's part of the care team too, you know, hey,
Absolutely.
My daughter's going to come over this time, my neighbor's going to come over this time, I have a caregiver coming twice a week or 5 days a week or whatever it may be, but kind of to balance those.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, a really good care team is going to include family and friends that provide that kind of respite and care. But you're probably, by the time you get to middle stage, going to need some professional help.
Especially with the bathing, you know, unless you want to, sometimes there's incontinence. And, you know, you have to determine what your threshold is on the kind of care you're going to get into. But sometimes when the physical care is there and it's needed, a professional caregiver doing that may just help overall.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit about late stage. We kind of segued into that when we talked about some of the bringing in the music and other therapy. It starts in mid-stage, but by the time we get to late stage, those kinds of therapies to help calm, particularly a person who is nonverbal, is going to be extremely important. But by late stage, most basic functions are compromised. We're going to likely be incontinent. We're going to have both long and short-term memory function affected. Communication is going to be probably completely nonverbal, if not completely nonverbal. Behavior management will probably be a total issue, unless they're completely bedridden and totally withdrawn. Care is
behavior management means you're constantly redirecting them. They may be wandering. They may have sundowners, and they're up all night. They're sleeping in the day, whatever it may be. That's kind of
right, and they don't understand your verbal communication.
Yes,
and that is an issue. They're completely not living in this world. They've checked out from reality, and if they're still able to walk or wheel around in a wheelchair, they're completely walking danger zone. Care will be around the clock and absolutely can't be provided by one person. Professional caregivers and facilities probably will join your care team at this point because everybody will need sleep, everybody will need help. They'll have to be fed, they will have to be bathed, they will have to have their incontinence taken care of, they will have to be, if they're bedridden, or chair-ridden, watch for bed sores and infections. It becomes a medical necessity to have in-home care. And that's very difficult. The person with dementia is going to definitely need medical oversight in the home at this point. Advocacy for the family and the individual is going to be needed. At some point in this time, hospice and palliative care will be needed. The family will need advocacy for the same. They will need support for end-of-life care at this time. End-of-life care is not just for the person who will be going through the end of their life at this time. It's for the family. Families need support during this time. There are many ways to die, but there are better ways to die, and it includes the family.
And I would not be afraid to ask your doctor about this when you start to hit the late stage, because oftentimes they can qualify, and this is usually insurance-based programs that do provide a bit of care. Maybe even more important, they're providing some medical oversight that's included through the insurance, and also just kind of that spiritual and kind of counseling support for the entire family. And it's probably one of the best things that Medicare and insurance companies do, and it could be of great value to you, so I'd ask about that. At CareFamily, we do live-in care, which allows for 24-hour care at a very, very affordable level, lower than a facility. But oftentimes in late stage, we'll add a night caregiver so the live-in can get some sleep. There are also facilities that offer memory units and dementia support that specialize in late-stage Alzheimer's people who need, constant redirecting or, to be in a safe environment. So you want to look at all those things, and this is especially important for when you talk to the elder care attorney about what may be available for resources, whether it's long-term care insurance, at times reverse mortgages. We can help kind of both the Alzheimer's Association and CareFamily in our Ask an Expert question. We can direct you to people in your community who can help look at what resources out there, even Medicaid planning, that can help pay when the care gets a lot, and there's some expense here.
Absolutely. The caregiver is going to need significant reassurance that their family member is being cared for well. Knowledge of the programs and services, as Tom was talking about, there's also different VA programs that will help with this, aid and attendance and others. Mm-hmm. Friends and family to be with them and support them, and regular physical and emotional self-care, and links to family resources. All right, let's talk about helping families.
Well, at CareFamily, I'm going to hit this, just real quickly. A lot of you who are listening to this are already using CareFamily, but the reason I started CareFamily is because I watched as my grandmother needed care, ended up in a facility. She had a really bad experience in a facility where she was left on a floor for about 13 hours and was actually found by my aunt. We brought my grandmother back home, and my mother cared for her 24/7 and had a burnout, just basically burned out and had a nervous breakdown doing it. It was hard to watch. So I've been in the long-term care field now for 10 years. I quit a job that I was doing to get into this because of what I saw. And my goal has been to provide the resources and the people to keep families at home long-term and provide support to the adult children. With CareFamily, we offer solutions across the country, mainly for seniors who want to remain at home long-term and to provide the best caregivers locally who are pre-screened, have all the insurance coverages, all the taxes are taken care of, but more importantly, to find you the right match at a very affordable level so you can have good, sustainable, long-term care. And as your needs grow, the services can grow with you so you can afford it. And number two is, especially in dementia cases, there may be a caregiver once or twice a week, then it may need to move to about 5 days a week. You may do live-in care, which is extremely affordable. Two, it may transition to a facility at some stage. So with us, we're matching. We do have personal care coaches that are walking people through not only our process, but the care needs as they move along. All the payroll, taxes, everything else is done seamlessly for you, including insurances, so it's very seamless and less expensive than an agency would be. And we give you all the tools to manage care remotely. For those of you out of town, you can see when caregivers come and go. You get audio care notes, which is an update every time a caregiver leaves to hear how mom's doing. And when you talked about the care team and people involved with the care, we have a portal that people can log in and communicate with each other about the family member. So CareFamily's there to offer that solution and the direct care for families needing to keep their loved one at home. And if you go to carefamily.com, you can go through and do an assessment, and a care coach will call you about, how we can help you in your best match. There's also a great resource section with videos about many of the things we're talking about today. And I told you this, but I got into this because of my own family, and basically my goal at the end of the day is to send people to your home that I'd want to send to my family. And so it's a very personal mission for me. Why don't we go to the Alzheimer's services, which really specialize on the Alzheimer's side, obviously.
Okay. The Alzheimer's Association has chapters across the country. Our chapter happens to be here in Southeast, but we have services across the entire United States and its territories. First of all, there is an 800 number that you can call toll-free, 800-272-3900, and you will be connected to your local chapter based on your area code. And there will be someone to answer the phone 24 hours a day. During working hours, you will get your local chapter. At off hours, you get our contact center that has master's degree social workers who deal with nothing but people who have Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers. You'll be followed up with, on the next business day from your local chapter. We offer care consultations, which are one-on-one, that deal with your family's issues and try to get you on a plan to start working with local resources and ideas for how to get your family on a path to dealing with the issues that you have. We all offer support groups in local areas that help you network with caregivers who are going through things very similar to what you're going with, so that you have a network of people that you'll be able to call friends that you can call, have lunch with, and do other things that will be part of that care team that we were talking about. We have a resource center in every chapter that has videos and books that you can check out for free and take home and watch to learn more on your own time. We have a new program called Trial Match. One of the biggest hindrances to Alzheimer's resources is not just money, but getting people to enroll in research. Our Trial Match program makes it easy for you. You can call that same toll-free number or go online to AOZ/Trial Match and sign up and fill out a little short survey, and we will find the clinical trials that are applicable to your loved one. Or guess what? We need lots of healthy volunteers who have a history of Alzheimer's, or who are a caregiver, or who have no relationship to the disease at all but are healthy, to be in a variety of trials. And they're not all drug trials, just caregiving type trials and lifestyle trials. But one of the biggest hindrances to getting these studies completed are enough people to be in them. So if you're interested in forwarding research, that's another way you can help. Please, if you're interested in research, check out our Trial Match program, or call the 800 number to get more information. We also offer educational programming. We have a wonderful new program. It's modular, about 21 hours of programming. It's called Living with Alzheimer's. It takes you through all the stages, legal planning, financial planning, that you'll need to know if you have someone that has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We also have a small section for people who are diagnosed in early stage, and we have a section that's for people who are diagnosed with Alzheimer's called Younger Onset, which impacts about 250,000 people who are diagnosed in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. We also have our Safety Center. Remember, we're talking about things like driving and home and environmental safety and wandering. And we also have our Medical Alert Safe Return and Comfort Zone, which are programs that help get people home who've wandered away safely. If you're interested in those, you can find a lot more information at www.aoz.org/Safety Center. All kinds of information that will help you keep your loved one safe in the home and out in the world.
And I just want to say, if people are wandering, or if you're noticing they're leaving, they could get lost, this is a must.
It absolutely is. And there's actually a caregiver Medical Alert Safe Return bracelet, too. That one, I mean, if you're out with your loved one, or they get out and they wander, if they call that in and they found your loved one or something, or they find you, they will know. If they find you down somewhere, they will know that there's someone lost that has Alzheimer's. If they find them, they'll know there's a caregiver. So
with the senior loved, if it's a couple who are senior.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, online education. We have a lot on www.alz.org of just all kinds of online education programs all you want to know about Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. But we also have e-learning classes. These e-learning classes, we have one of our most popular ones, Know the 10 Signs. We also have the basics, what you need to know about Alzheimer's disease. But there's also one called eCares. On eCares, the CARES program, it is a fee-for-service program, but it's about, I don't know, it's about I think it takes about 12 hours to take the program. And if you want to get a certificate in the program, you can get one. It's called Essentials, and you sign up for the certificate with the program, and you can get a certificate. And that's open not only to family caregivers to get that certificate, but professionals can pay to get the certification also. And there are a couple of additional certifications that professional caregivers can get too.
And if you are registered with CareFamily as either a caregiver or a family member, in your dashboard, you'll see an e-learning center that has a number of classes on Alzheimer's as well. There's a 28-hour class, and then there's individual modules which you could pick. And at this stage, we're offering these at no charge because we want families to be able to use them. There's a video, a brief PowerPoint, and there's actually a little quiz, and you can get a certificate. And these are done done in a way that's very good for people kind of new to the caregiving field. So both these areas have really good resources.
Absolutely. Any of Tom's caregivers here in southeastern Virginia, we offer professional classes that they can come to for free, and I imagine that there are others in other chapter areas, and there are always family classes offered in every chapter area. So just check out online, look where it says find your chapter, and see what they have to offer. The Alzheimer's Association, we're here to help you. That's our mission, and we want you to be educated. Education is key in this disease, so find it, use it. Thank you.
Okay, well, listen, we want to thank you all for joining us today. If anybody has any questions for us at CareFamily, if you go to carefamily.com, and in the resource section, there is an Ask an Expert question, which you can submit any question you may have. Also, a lot of you deal with care coaches. Please feel free to ask your care coach any questions. And also, I'm going to give you my personal email address. It is tom@carefamily.com, and that does go directly to me, and I'd be glad to contact you directly or answer any of your questions.